Authors, editors, publishers, book cover designers, agents, critics, readers. I am your host, Koral Dasgupta, all set to ask some interesting, straightforward, and fun questions to our guests. Today I have with me Pinaki De. Pinaki is one of the most loved professors of Calcutta University. He teaches in Uttarpara College. He is an alumnus of Jadavpur University. And the reason why he is extremely known in the literature circles and otherwise is that he is one of the most revered cover designers for many beautiful books that has been published. So Pinaki, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Koral. It's a pleasure.
So Pinaki, you are a very loved professor. I have seen your students react to your posts. Yeah. Now, you being a literature person, that is your primary identity.
Yeah.
Do you think that in some way pushed you towards cover designing?
Yeah, in a way, you're right, because, now, of course, I don't know what is my primary identity, Of course, I work as a professor, but that's like a day job. The real job is something which I do after I come back home, right? Before my computer, with my hand, with the Wacom tablets, and that's book designing. You're right. So when I was, reading, doing my master's in Jadavpur University, one of my teachers actually, saw my talent as an illustrator. Okay. And her name is Nilanjana Gupta, Professor Nilanjana Gupta. And she was the first one to suggest that, Pinaki, I have a book that is coming out from Penguin. And why don't you illustrate it for me? Okay. And that was a kind of a tentative suggestion. But then I was always in love with books. I used to love, reading them. And then I suddenly saw that it as an opportunity, because it combined my extensive reading habits, with something I really love, as a visual artist. I always wanted to visualize covers in ways, I love to, see them right on the bookshelf. And that's why, I thought I grabbed on the opportunity. And after that, I've been designing cover after covers. That was like I was in the undergraduate, not the master's, actually late undergraduate class.
Okay.
And then during the master's, I had actually designed a lot of covers. I think, yes, you are right. So probably, my profession, my career as an academic, right, also pushed me a bit more into this, because most of the illustrators I know don't read the books, right?
Yes, they don't.
So that's like almost given. But for me, it's almost like a kind of a prerequisite that anybody who sends me a manuscript, they should believe me with the manuscript. I read it, and then only I come up with a cover.
Okay, I remember one conversation that I had with you many days, in fact, many years ago.
Many years.
And you told me that you are self-taught. It's not that you have been formally coached into designing. So how was that? How did you self-teach yourself?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Many ask me that, because in nowadays, of course, everything is so specialized that, you have specific courses for everything, which is not necessarily bad. Now, of course, you have the internet, you have podcasts where you can learn so much. During our times, there was nothing. So I was always into drawing. I used to draw a lot from a very, very young age. So illustrating, drawing is something that I knew. Okay. So that is something I had some sort of a formal training, not formal in that sense, but you can say that I had a sort of training. But remember, if you do covers, you cannot just depend on your hand illustration. You need to master the softwares, right?
Yeah.
And you have to know Adobe InDesign, you have to know Adobe Photoshop, you have to know a lot of things, basically.
Yeah, and this is something that you probably picked up at the time when there was no internet. So where did the entire information come from?
So there was no internet. Our internet was not the way we look at it today, and it was not accessible everywhere. And of course, I was in hostel, and there, of course, internet accessibility was not there. So what I did was, in fact, till MA, right, till my master's, I didn't know computers at all. I mean, this sounds very weird, but whatever I knew was, basic word processing, something that an academic is needed to know.
Capable of, yeah.
Typical academic stuff. But what about the softwares? They were kind of daunting, and there were institutes that were mushrooming, which sort of tries to give you that pill, that they want to teach you everything, maybe in a year and all that. And the fee was also daunting, right? So I thought that I cannot learn like that. I made a decision very early, because I had this tendency to learn through books. So I still remember that I went to the famous College Street of Kolkata, which is kind of a book mart, right? Where every kind of book is available. And I brought a book, and I bought a book, and it's called Photoshop Bible. Okay. And it's very old Photoshop Bible, Photoshop 6, now it seems prehistoric. I still have the book. And it was a kind of a visual reckoner of how to handle a software. And I got the software, and then I began to, follow the book to the T. And the one thing that I made sure was that I used to sit before the computer almost 2 to 3 hours a day. Nothing happened in some days, nothing happened, nothing progressed. But I also used to sit 3 or 4 hours a day. And once I got hang of it, I figured some of it myself, some of it through books, and some of it, it's pure, you can say jugaad, it's a bit here and there, like most of the Indians love to do, right? Yeah. So you learn a bit, and
a lot about Sixth Sense, I guess.
Yes, a lot of Sixth Sense, a lot of insight, and my career as an my idea as an illustrator helped a lot. The very fact that I knew how things can be illustrated, how you can handle this, or I was also a very good amateur photographer. So that helped me to work on, say, something as complex as colors, for example. Even today, most of the designers have almost little sense of colors, how to separate colors, because that's like a huge task in itself. It's not easy. It's not only about following certain instructions. You need to visually, respond to certain things. And that's how it started. And I took almost, I think, 6 to 7 months. I couldn't do anything, but I took 6 to 7 months. And it is during that time, my mother and my father was extremely patient with me. They thought that since I am doing well in a computer, which is basically the university computer, right? So I actually got a better computer during my time, and then sort of I began to spend more and more time. And I sincerely believe that if you really spend a lot of time, mulling over all these things, if you can see the logic behind the way these things work, it can be learned. You can learn it by yourself. You don't need the help. Maybe now, of course, with a lot of softwares, a lot of YouTube videos, things are much easier. But, sometimes when you learn the tougher way, the harder way, you learn a bit more better.
You learn it with depth.
Yeah, with depth. And you also try to, you know how to, firefight certain situations. You are always on the toes because you're unsure. You're almost looking at it as a new adventure, unknown adventure. You don't know what you will land up to.
And probably the lack of happiness also pushes you more, no?
Absolutely. And you're dead right. And I still believe that if you have the right stuff, right? If you can, get the right stuff, all the softwares and the computers and the rig, okay, I think you can learn it at home. I mean, that's something I sincerely believe in. And anybody, and if you know me, I haven't been to any of these computer institutes ever. And I suppose I know Photoshop a bit, not everything, but a bit. And even complex software like Illustrator, it's not easy. Vector software, InDesign, difficult softwares, I mastered it on my own.
My next question actually comes from something that you have just touched upon and left it.
Yeah.
The importance of colors and fonts. I mean, where I'm coming from here is that a little change in a shade or a little or big change in the font makes a huge difference to the communication that a cover is making. How do you get that hang?
Yeah, so basically, that comes from my, training as a visual artist, right? So most of the people in India, they are very good draftsmen. They can, some of the artists are astounding, but they don't study the art too much because I sincerely believe, you need to study that as well. For example, the very nature by which colors can be separated, because these are very complex issues. There are very complex issues at stake, and that is where I actually learned typography. Again, I picked it up from book. Later I had some experience, much later in my career. I attended typography classes. I went abroad sometimes, to specifically learn typography. Okay. So that made me a kind of a bit better acquainted with typography. But, I always, I still have my type primer, all the references I can get about type, because first of all, I'm very finicky about type, because there are certain types which doesn't work in a book. There are certain types which doesn't print well. Okay. There are some web fonts, you can easily download it for free, but that is the problem. They don't print that well because, type, especially now, right now, before there was the hot metal type, but now, even, the very idea of type, the computer type is somehow the principle of it is based on certain issues, right? And if you don't get those things right, your cover will suffer. Sometimes I've seen people design amazing covers, but in print, they don't come out that well. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the issue. So I am very finicky about type. I'm very finicky about the right type for the right book, because there is also, a kind of spirit in the type. For example, I can tell you, a very light book, for example, sometimes you need to do a kind of a handwritten typography. You need to get that lightness. For a serious book sometimes, or say for a retro book, right? You need to find a type that somehow carries the weight of that subject. So for me, a type should always be calibrated to the subject. It should be something that should be in sync with the subject. And for that, you need to know the history of type. Now, many of the designers neglect that history. So, for example, a simple typeface, for example, a Saban or a Garamond, they have rich history, right? And know from where they are coming. For example, the use of serif and the non-serif font, right? And it's a very simple demarcation. People say that, in modern time, if you want to do a very, contemporary stuff, you normally go for a non-serif font, right? I don't believe in that, because, there are certain nuances that you need to know, and it can only come from a, intimate idea about the history of that particular type. So for every type I use, I normally try to study its history. I normally try to justify why I have used that type, right? Similarly, ditto with colors. Colors, first of all, you have to understand we are designing in computer, or sometimes by hand, or you are scanning it on computer. The final output is digital, right? Sorry, the final output is not digital, but the output from our end, from our end is digital. Then it gets printed. So, sometimes things don't get printed that well, right? And I think it's because of the printer's fault that it's not printed that well. It's mostly due to the problem of the designer, who doesn't separate the colors the way they should. So, for example, you want to use a black shade, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to use a pure black, normally we use CMYK separation, and normally K is black. Right? So you give 100 to K and the other values are 0, right? But then that black will not be very rich. But if you actually mix a bit of magenta in that black, you actually get what is called jet black. So you need to know.
Oh my God, there's so much to, I as a layperson wouldn't have ever expected this.
No, this is very, very interesting. So, if you want to have a jet black kind of a thing, because you need to mix a bit of magenta, right? Into that black, into that K value. So if you just maybe add a 15% or 15 point magenta, then suddenly the black looks richer. So this simple stuff, creates a huge impact, a huge difference, because ultimately you are judged by your final output. Absolutely. That's not on screen, remember, unless it's an ebook. It's mostly something that's coming out in print, right? And printing, as you know, I mean, it's a very risky thing. It's also a very difficult thing. I always communicate also with the printer, with the production person. So, many publishers do get a bit angry with me because I try to take a bit of control over a lot of processes, which otherwise, people leave it right at that doorstep. I don't believe in that. I try to communicate till the last line, especially with color and typography. I discuss it with people. And I say, this is the reason I have used it. And then only you take it forward.
Okay. So, Pinaki, how is the process of crystallizing? You just say that you read the story. And that is something that I find really, really interesting about you. Not reading the story, taking a brief and putting it on into a particular specific measurement, probably for a person like me would be easier. The way I see it. But for you, how is the process of crystallizing a 60, 70, 80, 90,000 word story into a specific measurement?
Yeah, so I have also done, longer stories sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm notorious in the industry for being very slow, but I believe, but I'm here not for the commercial bit. I'm here mostly as a person for the love of it. And I want to be, look, the person who actually inspired me was Satyajit Ray. And he was an amazing cover designer. Very few people know it, but his designs are amazing. And I saw his, I could see his workflow in the manuscripts that he has left behind, and it is very rigorous. So what I do is, first of all, I take in a story. I get a brief like anybody else, like everyone else. I get a brief, and the brief, as you all know, it's like a 1-page brief or at the most 2-page brief. The editor normally suggests something. The author may have certain suggestions, So all these are given in a brief. But I also ask for the manuscript. And what I do now, of course, is I don't read every line very, very, minutely. I do a kind of a speed reading, right? And it has become a bit of a habit now. Now, of course, I can finish manuscripts, huge manuscripts in 2-3 days flat, right? It's almost like a mission to me, to read this, because there's, you need to also know the style of the person, doing. And it's not only about heavy books. Even lighter books have a style of their own. You are a writer yourself, and every book has a nuance, right? Has a particular style. And if the cover doesn't reflect it, remember, it's the first thing that you see on a shelf. I know a cover doesn't determine a book, right? But it's a visual indicator. Okay, of what?
But it is the first communication anyway, even before the writer's personality is established in the book.
Absolutely. And for me, it's like the first seduction, So like...
there couldn't have been a better explanation to that.
Yes, and there are so many people waiting, there are so many books, in a bookshelf that you need to also draw the attention of the potential person, a reader, to that particular book and, get interested. Course. And so what happens is I read it, and once I read it, I discuss it with the editor. Okay. Normally, some of the editors, are very, very involved. They also discuss it with me. Sometimes I take in authors. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. With some authors, it's like mandatory now. Okay. Like, Kunal Basu. I have done a lot of work with Kunal Basu.
I think you are his in-house design. The publisher's person, you are Kunal Basu's person.
So, many people say that. But, I love to discuss things with him. And we don't necessarily discuss about the book. We discuss about styles. We discuss about new visual things we have seen. We both have seen. We both normally travel a lot. And we normally try to, discuss that. And then I try to tease out certain passages. So what I try to do is I mark certain passages digitally, of course, in my iPad or whatever, wherever I read, right? Normally I read in my Kindle. And when I do that, or I normally read in my iPad, whatever is possible. And what I do is I mark those places, right? And after I mark those places, I keep thinking about what can be the visual representation of those ideas and does it actually bring out the nuance of the book? Okay. So what I do is I begin to do options. Okay. Now it depends. Sometimes I hit it only with 3 options. Sometimes, for example, Calcutta, I had done a whopping 12 options, right? And I don't rest because unless I get the right cue, okay, unless I'm really satisfied, there is an internal check, and that's something I do myself. And once I'm sure of that, right, I normally I normally send it over to the publisher or the author. They give feedback. I normally incorporate them. I try to, because ultimately, remember, they are living with the book more than I do. I am probably living with the book, for less time. A writer, of course, is writing it, and it's like his own baby or her own baby. Yeah. So I give him or her that leeway that they should contribute. Sometimes writers are very visual persons. Sometimes they are not, right? Sometimes they get involved very much. Sometimes they are not concerned, right? So there are many kind of writers, but whatever the feedback is, I try to think over it. And again, I try to give reason and work on a particular option, right? That they choose. And once they choose an option, then I try to enhance it by again, sometimes redoing that same options, okay, by rearranging the options in certain ways. And once I do that, I come up with the final cover. And the final cover, the finesse, the final touches, I normally take 1 day, 1.5 days. I'm very fast once, the thought process is through.
Aligned.
Okay. Yes. So once that's through, I'm very, very fast. But otherwise, the thinking process takes a lot of time. And I have this small notebook, which is like my written notebook, where when I travel, okay, I do this small doodles of the kind of covers and the layout I will do. Right. Okay. So that also helps me. So it's a very organic, symbiotic process. It's not something that I do, as just another commercial venture. It's part of my life in a way now.
So, Pinaki, if I may ask, which of your covers, if you would like to name, is the most controversial one till date, and which is the most loved? Would you like to name those?
I don't know. I mean, there are many. Look, when I take a book, I try to get to the skin of the book, right? So there, my ideology, my inclinations, my affiliations don't count. For example, I did Rahul Pandita's book, right? Our Moon Has Blood Clots, which is about Kashmiri Pandits. And and it was a kind of a book that Rahul gave it to me. And, many of my, friends from the universities, are, within quote, very left liberal, ideologically different. And they said that, why did you take the book? Right? Because I said, look, I am taking it as a narrative, and I love the narrative. And once I can go under the skin of the narrative, I can design the book. I think I can. And I spoke with Rahul. We came up with pictures. We want to make it as visceral. So we didn't make it a very good looking cover because it talks about subliminal violence, right? Yeah. We wanted to make it scratchy, full of, stuff that's not the marker of a good looking cover. Okay. That's one cover which I thought was a bit contentious. Right. There was one I did with of Shomoresh Boshu's Bibor, a translation, which never saw the light. There are some covers which sometimes uses strong visual images of sexuality, right, related to sexuality. Now, of course, the publishers have their own take on it. Sometimes the stories are a bit more visceral, right? But visually you cannot do it because ultimately, there are a lot of channels through which these things pass, right? So sometimes they are shot down. Calcutta was a bit problematic because, when you do Calcutta, right, normally you don't associate a dog and a man with Calcutta. Many people say that it was a kind of a misrepresentation of the city. But remember, this is not Calcutta or Kolkata because that's Calcutta is the underbelly of Calcutta.
Yeah.
Every city has this underbelly and, it's not specific to Calcutta. So what we discussed was we needed some image that will be that will be not so easy on the eye, that will make you squirm, right? So we came up with the idea of the dog man. And once we came up with the idea of the dog man, we didn't color it. We could have colored it. I could have drawn it with color, maybe a bit psychedelic. We went for pure black and white and with electric blue lettering, because we thought that in order to put the grime idea into the cover, right? I think that was the best thing that you can do. That's something that I always evolve. So for me, when you take on a book, you are the book. You are part of the book. You need to be part of the landscape of the book. They're your ideas, because it's not your book. It's another person's book. You have to go under the skin of of this. So I'm open to every kind of book, and I don't distinguish between heavy literary book and very shrill within quote commercial book. There are divisions like this in the publishing industry. Chick lit and all this stuff.
Genres,
yeah. So I try to do even poetry, because for me every cover is like a challenge. You try to be the book. I do it for the love of it, and that's the whole idea of it, and that's what I try to do. This is something I have always believed in myself. I believed in the book, right? So I don't need to believe in the book. I need to believe in the words of the author. I need to get under the skin of the text. And once you get under the skin, you will be guided by the words written. And that is where I think reading the book becomes so important. Because just to dismiss any book as this or that, right? You need to look at the narrative, the story element, because no human in the world is same, right? Everybody has different, different ideas. And let's respect everybody's ideas. But since you are visually representing others' words into one big cover, right? Let us try to be him or her for a moment and try to imagine what you will do with this. For me, it's like a visual challenge more than anything else.
Pinaki, I am tempted to ask you something, taking cue from your last elaboration. You spoke about the liberals who may not agree to, or even if you have any liberal.
I am also called a left liberal, by the way. So I had my own, brushes with politics in Jadavpur. So I have a history, but yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask is that you have worked on an opposite ideology while your personal belief is something else. Does that pose a really significant challenge in your designing process? You believe in something else, but you are working for something else.
No, not at all. For example, I keep a very open mind, because my years in politics in Jadavpur has taught me one thing, that you have to be very open. Okay, that's why in my Facebook I've never unfriended anybody. I dislike that, because and I believe that everybody has its own standpoint. So if you get a book, for example, say if you get a book, you don't only think about the politics of the book. You also think about the story element, the narrative of the book. I always believe in the narrative, right? Now, sometimes the narratives may not be to my liking. But remember, it's not my book. It's the book of that person. And let's be open about that. You need to be very open that you are trying to represent in this world. Yeah, a person's thoughts, right? Words, in one stunning visual cover. It's of course, it's a job. It's a professional job, but more than professional job, if you don't go under the skin of the book. For example, I'll just give you not only political ideology, for example, reading habits, right? I'm an academic, and I am prone to read, I am more accustomed in reading, the Murakamis and the Pamuk and all that. And now then suddenly a very popular, within quote, because popular, you don't know how to define popular, book comes in, right? It's a bit more lighter, say a bit more humorous, right? Say maybe a mythological book comes in, and it's a bit different. It's a bit filmy, for example, right? How do you do that? Do you cook? Do you say that it doesn't belong to where I come from and I don't do it? As a designer, you cannot do it. It's like a job given to you. And I normally take these jobs up because I love variety. One of the reasons I haven't developed a signature, I have a signature style. When my own comics or book comes out, you will see my signature style. But remember, it's not my book.
Yeah.
For covers, I'm like a chameleon. I try to, that is why my styles are all very different. There are so many cover designers who have, a particular style, right? Sunandini Banerjee, for example, one of the best cover designers, she has a particular collage-like style and I love it, right? I made it a conscious decision not to, get stuck in a
stick
style.
to one.
Yeah, because you cannot stick in. That is where, you need to be open. It's not only about, it's not only about the ideological thing, but it's also about the ideology of visual representation. And there you need to get into the skin of the narrative. For me, nothing is sacrosanct. That is why I touch every kind of book and whatever, left, right, center, whatever. I don't care. And for me, it's a book, right? Now, of course, unless it is a manifesto, right, which I don't do normally, I normally try to do justice to a book or a narrative. And look, it's the words of another person. And then try to see what you need to do. And if you want to do, now what you can do is you can always subvert things here and there, but I normally don't do it either, because then you are not being, true. The words within the book are. So for me, I keep an open mind.
Okay. Pinaki, my next question is more of a leadership question than a publishing question.
Tell me.
How do you handle rejections? I mean, especially the covers that you have designed yourself are like your babies. And then out of maybe there is some cover option that you have loved the most and you think that that goes the best. And then the one that is picked up is not something of your liking. And do you argue or do you try to push it or how do you do?
No,
how do you detach actually?
No, I think you're right. I mean, there are many, many people have suggested that I should do an exhibition of my rejected covers,
Yes. That is something I have. I remember you writing about it in your FB and I was the one who was saying that, yes, please do it. I'm coming.
Yes. You suggested. Yes, I think, you're right. You are the one who suggested it. Yes, I remember distinctly. Yeah. So many people have said that. But, sometimes I look at it backwards. And I try to see the logic of the person who has rejected it, right? Sometimes, there are very visually appealing covers, right? But sometimes they may not be in sync with the narrative, right? Sometimes that is the main cause of rejection. Sometimes the whimsy of the author who has certain images in mind, preconceived images, right? I take them in a very detached way, and I behave in a very mature fashion here because ultimately, look, it's the book that we are all trying to, we're trying to better a book, right? We're trying to make the book a bit better than what it is already, right? So for me, if the author is happy, because that is where everything comes from. If the author is happy, not even the editor, the author is happy with the cover, or the editor is happy, I normally don't argue. I normally put in my point of views. Earlier I used to argue, but now, of course, no, I don't do that. I don't do that at all. You
focus on the final goal, which is probably very clear in your head.
Make whatever I get at hand, okay? So if a cover which has been chosen, but I don't like it, I there may be a bit less love, given to it. People may think, but that's not the case. I try to make that a bit more better, okay, than what it is. So I try to put in a bit of work in order to do justice to the cover. How much, whatever I can, I try to do. I try to put in my best, and it doesn't depend on the publisher. So it's not about big publishers, small publishers. Whenever I take a work, any work, okay, whatever work, even for a very small little magazine, I try to make, try to give it a bit of my best, my best. I always try to give my best because that's what I personally believe in. Because it's not about big publishing houses or big writers. I believe that I'm an outsider myself. If I can make it, anybody can. And I've seen students like that. And that is because of my teaching, profession. I'm much wiser now. I've seen people who haven't got, I'm lucky because I got a lot of opportunities. I've seen people with amazing talent who doesn't get opportunity. And you need to be much more, prudent about the way you do things, you handle things. You cannot be that egomaniac, egoistic artist who just believe that you are the only person who is right about things. Maybe because look, as a cover designer, I'm also too close to the cover, right? Sometimes too close to the cover. Sometimes I fail to see what others can see easily, right?
Yeah.
So you have to give them that, that leg room, to criticize, to reject. And rejections make me a bit more, it makes me try harder. Okay. It makes me better my art. And even now I'm rejected, even at this stage. And I love the process because I actually sometimes, spur the editor to, take it a bit more and, say that you reject this, let me do a bit more, let me do another one. Because that's the only way I can better myself. Because in Facebook, in everywhere, I have got a bit of a reputation and people always praise you, right? Rejection is my reality check. And if I continue to get rejected, I know I will do better covers.
So, Pinaki, why don't you tell me one of the most beautiful memories you may have had while interacting with authors? Any one or two, or the way?
Yeah, so two authors I can tell right away. Of course, one is Kunal Da, because we are talking about Kunal Da.
Yeah.
And I can't talk about Kunal Da. When I was actually, introduced to Kunal Da by Saugata Mukherjee. Okay. Saugata, of course, right now works in a different media. Of course, he's in Hotstar, I think. But he used to be in HarperCollins during that time. He was the editor. And he said to me that, look, I am reviving this writer called Kunal Basu. Have you read his works? I would say I've read one or two of his works, but, I haven't read him that, extensively. Right. So he said to me that, Pinaki, go through these manuscripts. He was always very generous with manuscripts. He used to give me earlier. He's a editor I really cherish, working with. A lot of editors, in fact, Kartika, there are many others with whom I have very pleasant memories. But Saugata was a kind of a friend, And what happened was I read it and then I saw that we need to revitalize this, through different kind of packaging, to different kind of covers, because the earlier covers were so disparate. Yeah. They had no series look. They were all over the place. And then, Kunal Da was in Oxford. Okay. In fact, he still, lives 6 months in Oxford and maybe the rest in India, and he travels a lot. So he made a long distance call and it was supposed to be a very short call, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I don't know what happened. Something clicked and we continued talking for an hour. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. And it's like a long distance call and he got really interested. Right. And then when I went to London, he invited me over and we had these 2 amazing days, discussing about art and, what makes a book cover tick, and Calcutta was conceived like that. Okay. We generally talked about Polish posters. We talked about, the exhibition that we saw in Ashmolean during that time. We're discussing about art in general, right? And he had his own take on art. I have my own idea about art. And we vibed so well. And then it has been a kind of a give and take. The new cover I did for him, I did for him is Sarojini's mother. And there we sort of pulled in another artist, and he's a ceramic artist, and his name is Partho Dasgupta. Okay. Because we thought that, this cover needs a bit of art, the arthiness to it, arthiness, literally and metaphorically. So we put in another artist, and it's like a long conversation, right? And once you have this conversation in place, I think you are going to the right direction. Another cover which I really liked is Chandrahas Chaudhary. I did this cover called Arzi the Dwarf, which is about Bombay.
Yeah.
And Chandrahas is a wonderful person to talk to. He is like full of ideas. Okay. He initially didn't believe in my ideas, but as I was, showing him, things stage by stage, I almost sent him everything stage by stage. He began to believe in me, and I've designed most of Chandrahas's books after that. Right. Also, the recent memory of this book called The Scent of God, right, by Shoikat Majumdar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting cover, and for that we really
it's extremely sensuous, whatever be your orientation.
Yes, and I must tell you, there's a beautiful story behind it. So the person you see in the cover, okay, his name is Abhinandan. He's a model, right? And the photographer is Orko, and they are in a relationship with each other. Remember, in a suburb, to have a relationship among a kind of a LGBT community, right? It's like a taboo, right? And they have somehow withered that, and they stay together. Orko is a champion of those rights. So when I chose a kind of a idea of the cover, when I thought of the idea of a cover, I went straight to Orko and I said, look, this is a book that talks about this community, right? This is a book where you are talking about same-sex love, and I want you to shoot it. I don't want any other photographer. I can get amazing photographers, okay, professional photographers, but I want you, because you will be the subtext of that, cover. And Orko and Abhinandan and I sort of came together for this shoot. We did meticulous shoot.
Literally collaborated,
and we came up, and Shoikatda was wonderful. He was like, he just lapped in on that idea. He said that this is what my book, I always wanted my book to be like this, a kind of a conversation extended. So we all of Shoikat, I, Abhinandan and Orko came together, and we sort of, discussed the symbolism there, the dream catcher, the drawings, the fonts, the way you give a, when you set up the pose of the boy, the way you try to focus on his shoulder, I changed the color of the skin tone to make it extremely sensuous, right? Because you want to draw the people in, by that cover. And, we put flowers, the specific kind of flowers that are referred to, So it's like very collaborative, and I have very, very fond memories of this shoot. I mean, I really loved, that collaboration. And I still believe that, cover, if you want to have fabulous covers, right, you need to be big, better collaborators. Right? You cannot do a shoddy, fast job, because, the cover comes much later, in the publication process. Sometimes there are 3-4 days left and you need to do a cover, maybe 7 days to do a cover, 10 days to do a cover. But ideally there should be 15-20 days, to think over. But you cannot remain idle during that time. You need to think over. So you need to be in the process of doing the cover.
So, Pinaki, such amazing use of words, such beautiful articulation. You have immense reading behind you. You're an encyclopedia by yourself. No intentions of writing your own book, man?
Yes. What I'm trying to do is I am trying to write my own stuff. First of all, I'm trying to write something on book cover designs in India, right?
Okay.
That's something I'm doing. It may take a bit of time because I'll be digging through history, right? But look, I'm also very interested in comics and graphic narratives. I'm presently working on a kind of a longish work on, on the Direct Action Day, okay, in Partition. It's basically a kind of a fantasy take on Partition, on one day of Partition. It's about that day when, the Direct Action Day, when violence broke out in Calcutta,
right,
and thousands of people were butchered. There is no violence in my story, but it's like an Alice in the Wonderland story.
Right.
But
everything is implied.
Everything is implied. But it's a very, very enjoyable story. It's not a very boring academic kind of story. There is it's a fast narrative. I'm working on that. So maybe next year that will be there. And maybe I have an idea of a novel, right? Kind of a speculative fiction, around the town where I presently live, where I'm born, basically Chandanagar, which was a French colony.
Yes.
So yes, I may write something on that, because there's a lot of history about this place, and there was a small battle that took place before the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Chandanagar, that actually paved the way for British, winning the Battle of Plassey in the long run. So I have this idea about this speculative fiction where the British, doesn't win the Battle of Chandanagar. And that is why the Plassey never occurs. So, that's something that I'm working on. These are all for next year,
I will so much be waiting for each.
Yeah, I take my time, so I write slowly.
Worth it.
Yeah.
You taking time is worth it.
I always take time, because I believe in a bit of slowness in these matters. Of course, sometimes it's a virtue, sometimes it's not. Mostly it's not. But sometimes in this kind of intimate ideation process, where you need to be like that, you need to take time, and even for covers, right? And that's where I have a grouse against the publishing industry. They are like a will in perpetual motion, right? Of course they have their own reasons, I understand that, right? But I think you need to be a bit more you need to take a bit more time, and then if you spend a bit more time on particular book, you also give that book its due, right? Sometimes too many books doesn't work well, too many books at a time. I don't know. I mean, of course, it's a very evolving industry. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there may be compulsions which I'm unaware of. Yeah, but that's my view.
Absolutely. Pinaki, the last question, and something that I try to ask almost everybody, that whichever space you have occupied, you have achieved, the benefits or the rewards of that particular space, how do you allow that to cast a good effect on your child?
I mean, of course, you can see that, because my child, of course, loves to draw, right? And also, the thing that I work on, say books, right? So I get a lot of books, right, in my home. From the publishers. So he naturally takes, the thing is, the child always follows their parents, right? They try to, idolize the parent, at least at a tender age, right? And that's where you need to be committed in your own work to show them that whatever you do, whatever profession you are making a difference in the lives others. Because if you don't do that, and that's one of the reasons, I never left the job of a teacher. I've got a lot of offers to be a designer, solely work as a designer. But I love teaching, because when I see these students, they're like friends to me, and I try to in a way, students are like my child as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So my child is like my student as well. It works both ways. And if you don't show that to them, that you are really working also for the others, right? You are working for the community. You are actually extending your work beyond your own needs. Okay.
Right.
I don't think you will make an impact at all. I always believe in whatever profession you are, be it in sports, in politics, in writing, in whatever, okay? You need to go a bit beyond yourself. We love to be, it's all about I, we, everything. And we sometimes are like this. It's compulsion. But, somewhere you also need to make the choice to go a bit beyond yourself, to go a bit beyond the obvious. If you don't do that, your child will not learn from you that way. And he will be, or she will be very, very, self-contained. You need to spread the love. You need to show that you are spreading love. You are doing this as a committed job. Okay. And then your child will pick it up from you. And that's the best teaching that you can give, to your child. This is my firm belief.
wonderfully explained, Pinaki, and I love talking to you like I always do.
Yes,
and there's a lot of learning from you. I mean, I could just go on with this conversation. It'll never end. More because you are a friend and I really believe in what you say.
Of course, same here. It's a pleasure talking to you.